I have really been putting off reviewing this Darmanitan theme deck as it's just so terrible, but hey, it is the last Sword and Shield theme deck that I have to review for you, so here it is. We're going to go through it as usual and then have some battles afterwards, so if you want to skip between those then there are timestamps in the description as always, and of course if you're new here, I post videos multiple times a week on Pokemon TCG, so be sure to subscribe down below. But let's get into the deck review and then have those battles. Let's start off by having a look at the Galarian Darmanitan itself then. It does have the Blizzard attack here for 3 energy, deals 80 damage up front as well as 10 across your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it can be quite nice for setting up knockouts or finishing things off that might have retreated or switched out. And then the other big attack here that you're going to be wanting to try and aim for is the Crushing Headbutt for 170 damage. You can't use that attack on the following turn, so this is very similar to the Rillaboom theme deck. The Rillaboom has pretty much the exact same attacks, except its secondary attack does 180, its first attack does 90 up front, so actually just a worse version of Rillaboom, and as you'll see the energy acceleration is very much lacking along with the consistency, so I would say Rillaboom is just a straight up better version of this deck. But certainly we'll have a look at some of the other Pokemon here. Darmanitan of course is the main Pokemon in the deck, but we do also have the regular, or not regular, but the fire version of Darmanitan, the Galarian Darmanitan as a fire type. Anyways, and for 1 energy you get a headbutt for 40, but the main other attack here, which does still require water energy, which is good of course, you get Frozen Heat for 110, not the best ever, but if you discard all all water energy from this Pokemon, then you deal 170, so yeah, really terrible attack overall if you're not familiar, but discarding energy, typically not a good thing, and the fact that you have to discard all of the energy to deal that 170 is extremely bad for you as you're losing your energy. But you'll see that as a theme throughout this deck, as we do have a bunch of other Pokemon that have that similar effect. For example, we have the Pelipper here, does have a Power Cyclone, and if you're familiar with Power Cyclone you'll know what it does, but 110 damage, and then you move an energy from this onto one of your bench Pokemon, so again, you're moving energy around, at least you are keeping it in play and you're not actually removing it completely. But Suicune on the other hand, you have to put 2 energy from this Pokemon into your hand, and for 130 that is not very good whatsoever. Can be nice in the early game as you get to deal 20 for 1, but considering that Wishy Washy also deals 20 damage for 1 energy and it only has 30 HP, yeah, Suicune is definitely not where it's at. The other main attackers that we have here, or other attackers in general, we have the Beartic, which can deal 150. This can be actually quite nice as a lot of Pokemon stage 1s and stage 2s do have 150 or less HP, so can actually be a decent attack, but you do have to deal 50 damage to yourself, which certainly stings quite a bit as you're not going to have a lot of HP there. And then the last Pokemon, the Kangaskhan, does have Rally Back, which can deal 120 if you lost a Pokemon on your opponent's last turn there, so that can be quite nice as an attacker. Having a look at the trainer cards here though, we do have the standard ones for the Sword and Shield theme decks, things like the Professor's Research and Hop to draw cards. We also got the Sonia and Birdkeeper for a little bit of extra draw and consistency. Then we of course have our 2 copies of Bead to try and accelerate some energy, but like I said, it just doesn't have the same impact like the Rillaboom deck having the Eldegoss. Other than that, the only other card of note is Turbo Pack to try and accelerate energy there, but on a coin flip that's not going to work out for you all that often. And then you do have some Capacious Bucket, which is quite nice for searching out those energies as well. So even if you just wanted to have these in a standard format deck, then you can get the theme deck for that, but not too difficult to get your hands on, and the rest of these cards are pretty abysmal. hence why I've put off making a video on this deck, as it is just so terrible and there's so many better options out there available. But anyways, let's get into the matches, see what we can make happen with it, and hopefully we can at least take a couple of prizes and maybe even win. Let's get into it. So here's me thinking that no one plays this deck. I rarely see this deck in the ladder, but here we are playing a mirror match of the Darmanitan deck. So we do get to go second here, which is going to draw us a lot of cards, since we do have a hop to draw 3. We do get another Pokemon, which is very good, definitely needed that. And we can use Collect on our Wingull to draw an additional card here as well. So we are set up quite nicely overall, since we can start attaching some energy onto this Kangaskhan, which can hit for 100 damage. We do have to attach quite a few energy on there, but that shouldn't be a problem, as we do have the bead here, which is going to allow us to get that extra energy on the board. Now if we have a look, this Suicune does have 120 hit points. That is going to be a little bit of an issue, but I'm sure we can deal with it with the Kangaskhan's Rally Back, doing it 90 plus 30. That is going to be an exact 120. Of course my opponent does have to knock out one of our Pokemon, but that's totally fine by me. We do get a Great Ball here, which is going to grab us another basic, and I think I'll just go for another Collect to draw a card. And like I said, my opponent is going to be wanting to knock out our Wingull, and we're going to be able to use Rally Back in order to get the return knockout if my opponent does do that. They're going to be building up some Pokemon on their bench as well, so they do in fact see this line of play that we're looking to go for. They do get the Bird Keeper though, however, that is going to allow them to switch out and attack with a different Pokemon instead here, meaning that our Kangaskhan is not going to be able to knock out the Suicune there. Really unfortunate, as that is going to be a big threat that they can come in with and start swinging into our Kangaskhan with, so not a great position to be in. They get another basic off with their Great Ball as well to match us, which is something that tends to happen in these mirror matches, and they are just going to be hitting us for 20 damage, which is reasonable. Certainly be putting down some more bench Pokemon on our side of the board, I reckon. Seems like a good plan, since we want to build up some more attackers. And we'll once again go for the Collect and see if we can get anything good here. We get a Pelipper. That is a little unfortunate, considering our Wingull is about to be knocked out and we're not going to be able to make use of it. We also have the Beartic here, of course, in our hand. Would be good if we were able to get that down, but unfortunately we don't have the basic for that. So we're just going to have to hope that we top deck probably a supporter card. That would be ideal. If we even get a Sonia, I would take that to search out some basics, since we do have plenty of basic energy, so getting those basic Pokemon down would be very good here. My opponent doing the exact same thing though, and really setting up their board. They went for the Capacious Bucket there to get some more energy. Looks like my opponent doesn't actually have the knockout here. The Wingull actually has a massive 70 HP for a basic. Is not terrible, and we do pick up another Pelipper, so almost tempted to go in and start attacking with something else here. We do have the Kangaskhan with 130 HP, so the Suicune would be able to knock us out if they do get the switch into that benched Suicune. So not ideal there, but I suppose we could always build up a Pelipper and attach energy elsewhere, or attach energy onto a Darmanitan here, but only dealing 10 damage isn't going to be super big. I don't know, I guess we'll go for it. We'll evolve, we'll go for the switch, and we can start attaching onto our bench here. Hit my opponent for 10, and then the plan is just to go for the attack with our Pelipper in order to get the knockout here. Or I suppose our Kangaskhan is also going to do the job, but yeah, hitting for that 110 is a little underwhelming, meaning that we do have to 2-hit this Suicune, since it does have that 120 hit points, and certainly losing a prize card or two is not going to be ideal for us. Now, can we retreat? That's the question. We do have a 1 retreat cost, or we could also evolve here, so we do pick up the Galarian Darmanitan? Yeah, I keep wanting to say Darumaka, but it's not, it's Darmanitan. does have a 3 attack cost though, which is pretty costly, and I think I just want to get a knockout in here, so I'm going to retreat, go into the Pelipper. You can also evolve the bench here, which doesn't have damage on it, and we'll go for an attack, take a knockout on this Suicune, and it's going to be on my opponent to make something happen here. We do get to move an energy as well, so certainly putting it onto the Darmanitan is going to be very good for us, as we can casually build up that Will-Way attack with the active Pelipper. My opponent opting not to promote the Suicune, they're promoting the Darmanitan themselves, which does attack for 80 damage, as they did get the energy there. The Turbo Patch coming in clutch, getting the heads and accelerating extra energy onto the bench, so they can attack with that Suicune if they want to. And that 80 damage is going to be enough to take a knockout on our Pelipper, since we did already have a lot of damage on there. And of course they spread damage onto our bench. Now the Darmanitan does have 140 hit points, which is quite a bit, and it's going to take a lot for us to get a knockout on that thing, so certainly using the Kangaskhan to rally back, do a significant amount of damage is going to be good here. We do get a Professor Research, which I am certainly going to make use of, but we do have the Pelipper in our hand. Probably not going to get the energy on time though, so we'll go for the Research, looking for some more energy, as well as other Pokemon that we can work with. We do get a Turbo Patch as well as a couple of decent Pokemon here, so let's put down a Suicune of our own. We'll Turbo Patch. Unfortunately not going to get that. We do get a Tails, that's not going to be any use to us. Just go for the Rally Back on my opponent, dealing that 120 damage, putting them at 20 HP remaining, which is going to allow us to clean it up with our Suicune. Now my opponent is dealing 80 damage at a time, which is not going to be enough to knock out our Kangaskhan, and we can always take a knockout with it, but they do have the switch ready to go in their hand, and that 10 damage that they spread earlier is going to be all they need to finish off our active, as this Suicune does deal 120 damage, so they really needed that 10 damage up. Or my mistake, it does 130, I was thinking of something else, the Kangaskhan or something, but yeah, I guess we're not going to be surviving that, which is a little unfortunate. I guess we'll promote our Darmanitan here, see what we can do with it. We get a Water Energy on. We do also have a couple of Pokemon that we could put down. I guess Wishy-Washy isn't a terrible Pokemon to have in play, and we'll just go for a Research. Not much use in using the Sonia, as we do want to find a lot of cards here. Don't really find anything else that we can make use of. Was really hoping for another Turbo Patch to try and get aheads there, but it is just going to be a Blizzard from us, hitting the active and also spreading damage to try and take a knockout on that Darmanitan while it's on the bench. If we could take a double knockout here, that would be ideal, but my opponent finds the second switch, and they have the energy of course, so they're going to be able to take a knockout on us and leave us with no attackers. But at least this Darmanitan does only have 10 HP remaining, so we do have that going for us at the very least. That will promote our Wishy-Washy. It does deal 20 damage, so why not promote that? It's not going to be surviving a hit, but that's alright. We do have other things that we can put into play, and we also get our Cubchoo, so we can eventually get our Beartite down as well. And here we go, we'll get our knockout finally. Take an additional prize card and see if we can try and catch up with our opponent, as they've certainly taken a tremendous lead here, going to 3 prize cards already. They're going to be in a similar situation though, as they only have 1 or 2 energy on the board, as they are split across a couple of Pokemon here, so it's going to be difficult for them to get any big attacks really going. And as we can see, they are building it up on the bench, so they know it's going to be important to get a big attack off, and they also get the Hop, which is very good for them to draw through their deck a little bit further. Just a 20 damage prod from my opponent. Now they do have a total of 40 HP remaining, so if we're able to deal 40 damage with something, then we could take a knockout, but it doesn't look like we have any Pokemon that are going to be able to do that for us right now. Then we'll just go for a Sonia and thin the deck a little bit, possibly just taking 2 energy, as we really do need to keep the energy flowing every turn here. So we'll take that before we use the hop, and we can also attach one of them. Probably going to go with the Suicune here, seems reasonable, and we'll just attack my opponent for the 20 damage once again, getting it closer to being knocked out here. And now, of course, my opponent could just retreat or switch. Yeah, probably not going to be retreating since it does have a 1 retreat cost, but keeping that energy on in order to take a knockout on our Wishy-Washies, probably more beneficial to them. But yeah, if they do want to retreat, then they could go for that, make it more difficult for us to get a follow-up knockout, and that would certainly be rather irritating. And there we go, that is what they're going to go for. That is very, very troublesome for us, as it's going to make it very difficult to take a knockout on my opponent's active here, and they're also spreading more damage around with the Darmanitan. So we're in a very difficult spot. We don't have enough energy in play to really work with here. I think I'm just going to have to throw up a Pokemon to sacrifice, although my opponent doesn't have a huge amount of prize cards left to actually take, so I highly doubt we're going to be winning this one. Let's go for a hop, and yeah, just a bunch of supporter cards, nothing else that we can really make use of here. Keep attaching to our Suicune and just pass over to my opponent, I think. Not really sure what else we could have done in this matchup. My opponent was just able to get set up a lot more efficiently than we were, as we really struggled to find our attackers early game, while my opponent found theirs and started attacking into us quite early, or earlier than us anyways. And when that happens, especially in mirror matches in team deck format, then typically what happens is whoever attacks first and starts taking knockouts is the person that's going to win. So that's just the way that it is going by the looks of things, which is a real shame, as my opponent does have 1 prize remaining here. We'll go for an attack anyway, see what we can do and get some additional damage in. We've got a Great Ball here for another Darmanitan. We can certainly put that into play. We also got another Wingull with the hop to draw us an additional 3 cards. Let's just play everything out. No reason not to. We get 2 energy left in our deck, as well as the Turbo Patch here. Getting a Tails again. Turbo Patch is never lucky for me, it would seem, but at least we can get a knockout with our Suicune, dealing that 130. We do have to put our 2 energy back into our hand. One of the huge downsides to using Suicune is getting those energies put back into the hand. And certainly a reason why I prefer using the Pelipper, since you do get to move an energy onto one of your bench Pokemon and build up a backup attacker. But as you can see, my opponent does have the Rally back, which is going to knock us out and easily take the last prize card for my opponent. So real shame that we did lose the mirror match, but that is typically the way that things go. Just whoever attacks first and takes the first prize is going to be the victor there. Let's get into another match and see what happens. Getting into our second game here, we're up against the Rillaboom theme deck. Now, typically in the past you'd think that this would be a bit of a problem, but with this particular water deck we're mostly weak to things like metal and lightning, so we shouldn't have a problem with weakness in that regard. And we actually have our fire type Darmanitan as well, so we can actually take advantage of weakness on our end of the board and hit my opponent for weakness, which would actually come in pretty clutch overall. We do have a bunch of supporters in our hand as well, which is quite nice that we can totally play out all of these hop and then use our research after we've played all of our supporters out. So certainly making the most of our deck and our draws that are available here. Did I choose to attach onto the Cubchoo as well, since we do have the Beartic in our hand already. Didn't really see any merit in trying to attack with the Wishy-Washy. Much rather build up a bigger attacker that we can make use of here. My opponent is just of course going to be using the Gossifleur here, which is going to be getting them 3 basic Pokemon out of their deck. And then of course if they do have the Eldegoss in their hand, that's going to get them 3 energy as well. So we'd really like to take this Gossifleur out as quickly as possible. It does have 50 HP, and of course Beartic does 40 HP, so we will be missing a knockout unfortunately. We do have other attackers that can deal 50 like the Pelipper here, but unfortunate that it's not going to be the case that we can make use of that. We do get another hop here as well, so interesting that we do have all of our supporters, not something that happens all that often. And yeah, I think we could just switch here and start attacking with my Bertic anyways. The other option is of course dealing 50, or to ourselves, but 150 is going to be decent for taking out something like a Rillaboom. So I suppose we could just hold on to this stuff for now, in case my opponent does bring in a big attacker like the Snorlax. So we'll wait a turn and see what they do. We can just build up some energy on our side of the board, and they do indeed have that Eldegoss, so they are going to be getting energy into play. And of course we weren't able to take the knockout anyways, so even if we did the 40 damage, the Eldegoss has 80, so I suppose we could have 2-hit it, but either way they are going to be getting the 3 energy into play here, which is a little concerning, but we'll have to see where they attach the energy to for sure. We could build up some attackers on our side of the board, and that is going to be setting us up in a good position to combat my opponent and all of the energy that they're going to be putting into play. And of course we do get our Pelipper down now, which isn't too terrible. We can even start attaching energy onto it to build that up as an attacker. And we have a Great Ball here. Oh, there is the Fire Darmanitan, so it is in the deck, but we are going to be needing the basic of course in order to attack with it. So let's see if we can find that off of a couple of hops here. And yep, that is not going to be super useful to us. We do get a Cubchoo though, and yeah, not a whole lot else, so we're going to pass over to my opponent. I mean, we could give them a smiley face as well, why not? Totally not a misclick, but hey, we'll give them a little smiley face. Everything is well. We can bluff our way through this, I suppose. But certainly getting all of this energy in play. Kind of regretting not knocking out this Gossifleur now, or Eldegoss at this point, as certainly getting another turn of 3 energy into play is going to be very good for my opponent. And the more that they do this, the more difficult it is going to be for us, so I reckon we should probably take out the Eldegoss now that I think about it. Definitely going to be attaching onto the Bertic and using a switch. Let's go for Hop and make use of all of our supporters, of course. And there we go, we get the Fire Darmanitan and the basic as well, which is fantastic here. Certainly use our Bertic to deal 150, getting that knockout, and we can start working towards some other attackers from here. We are most likely going to be falling behind on prize cards here. My opponent goes for a knockout, which they can easily do. Then I'll have to promote something to sacrifice, most likely the Wishy Washy, but that's totally fine because then we can build up some other attackers here, like our Fire Darmanitan, of course. Dealing that 110 damage is going to be all we need as the base damage to get knockouts on my opponent's grass type Pokemon. Although this Snorlax is going to be somewhat problematic, as it does have a lot of hit points that we have to get through, 150 of course, being the exact amount that our Bertic was doing, but we really needed to get in there and get a knockout on that Gossifleur and Eldegoss combo before they really got going with that energy. Even the fact that they got 2 turns off the energy attachments was pretty problematic, so yeah. Anyways, we'll go for a bead. Certainly going to be accelerating some energy onto our Fire Darmanitan. Also need to attach some energy here. Just trying to work out how we're going to deal with this Snorlax and the oncoming Rillaboom as well that my opponent inevitably has. I think we're going to be putting down another Cubchoo that we can potentially make use of. The Pelipper deals 110 damage, so not quite enough to deal with a Snorlax. The Darmanitan, you may discard all water energy from this and it does more damage, so that's kind of concerning as we don't really have a good attacker here in general. Let's go ahead and attach to the Cubchoo and pass over to my opponent. Hopefully we find another Bertic and I mean hopefully it's still in the deck so that we can actually make use of it, as that would certainly help us out quite a bit. But spreading out our energy is making our board look rather thin compared to our opponent. That Snorlax is going to eat through our whole board of Pokemon very quickly if we're not able to deal with it pretty soon here. They go for a Great Ball. Is this going to be the Rillaboom? It is the Rillaboom, they've got it. So now we're going to put even more pressure on us, because if we're not able to deal with this Snorlax soon, then it's going to be game. But if we do deal with the Snorlax, then my opponent is going to have that Rillaboom in the back, ready to attack us, and it's not looking good for us at all. Let's end up the Wingull, I guess, just to sacrifice it once again. And probably going to be attaching energy onto our Cubchoo, I guess. In fact, well, Sonia first. Sonia does let us search the deck, so we can take a Kangaskhan, and we can also search through the deck here. Now we do have a couple of basic Pokemon still, and we do have the Beartic in the deck, so that's very nice. Unfortunately, no other fire type Darmanitan, which could be an issue, but we can certainly take two Pokemon here and put those two bad boys into play, and we'll also attach an energy onto the Cubchoo before passing over to my opponent. So now on this following turn we will be looking for the Beartic as well as an energy. If we get those two things, then we can go ahead and get a knockout with our Beartic. Otherwise it's going to be problematic for sure. So we're going to go all in with this. If we don't get it, then it is probably going to be game. But if we do get it, then we have a fighting chance. So we really have to go in here. We do get ahead on the Turbo Patch, which is pretty awesome. Although we can only attach it to a basic Pokemon, so kinda sucks there. I guess we'll put it onto the Suicune since it does deal a significant amount of damage. And we will Professor's Research here, looking for the Beartic, and we don't find it. We do find pretty much all of our energy though. We get the Capacious Bucket to search out too, as well as drawing into a bunch of them. So that really sucks, as we could have been in this game still, and I really don't think we are going to be in the game at this point. We can at least continue to attach onto our bench Pokemon, and we'll poke the Snorlax for a little 30 damage. Not going to be a huge amount, and certainly nowhere near enough to get a 2-hit knockout on the Snorlax, as it still has 120 hit points, and our Fire Darmanitan only deals 110 at a time. So we are going to go in with it. I suppose we can take a prize here, and we do have our bead, of course, that we can make use of. Attaching onto our Suicune seems reasonable, and we also have another basic, but we're not going to put that down. We're just going to attack with our Darmanitan. Yes, we want to discard the energy and get a knockout on the Snorlax so that we can deal 170. Really terrible attack, dealing 170 and having to discard all of your energy on a stage 1 Pokemon is just, oh, it's a really abysmal attack, and this just really shows how this deck annoys me so much because it is so inconsistent. The energy acceleration just isn't there because you only have bead to work with, and as a whole you really struggle against even the lower tiers of decks. It even struggles against itself, as we've seen in the previous games. But yeah, this should have been a decent matchup for us at the very least, and it hasn't been that at all. My opponent has one here, as they only have one prize remaining. All we can do is attack them for 130, which isn't going to be enough for a knockout, and we even have to reset our energy. But my opponent is dealing well more than enough to get a knockout here. They're doing like 190 or something, 170, whatever, and that is definitely going to be enough to knock out our Suicune, although of course they can't use the attack back to back, but that's fine because they're dealing 90 at a time, and we did have to reset our energy, so there's nothing else that we could do here anyways. I guess we'll attach onto our bench. We don't have a switch though, so that's not going to be any use to us. We just have to attack my opponent for 20, and then it goes over to their turn where they are now able to get a knockout on it and take that last prize card for the game here. Hopefully you enjoyed this game and this video as a whole. All the same as every week, I do urge you to leave a like on this video to show your support, and it really lets me know if you did enjoy this video or not. Hopefully we have a better time with the next theme deck, but yeah, that is really the ultimate reason why I have not played this theme deck all that much. It is just that terrible, so definitely don't recommend it, and that is one that you should stay away from. I'll see you in the next video, and have a good one.